one of the key elements to faith in the wild is this idea of practice. In Matthew 28, when Jesus is giving his great commission to his disciples, the last thing he shares with them before he ascends into heaven, he says, "Go and make disciples." Another word for disciple is this idea of apprentice. And if you know anything about an apprentice, is that they're always practicing their trade. They show up to work and they practice. They don't expect to be the master, but they expect to get better. They expect to emulate the master, and they practice getting better and better and better. And that's what we want to do here. We want to help you understand and fall in love with the idea of practice. And that practice is our lives. When we wake up in the morning and when we go out into the world, that is an opportunity to practice these truths, the way of following Jesus. That's where Jesus meets us. And that he doesn't expect us to be perfect. He expects us to make progress, to want to be more and more and more like him as we practice these things. Do you remember in the 90s, there was this great Nike ad campaign, and it was, "I want to be like Mike." And everything was about being like Michael Jordan. It didn't matter what he was doing. You wanted to be like Mike. And everyone would practice their golf swings. They would practice their fadeaway jumpers, trying to be like Mike. And everyone knew that they weren't ever going to be Michael Jordan. There was one Michael Jordan. But we knew the more we practiced being like Mike, the better we would be at our own game. We wouldn't be just like Mike, but we would be better at whatever the sport of basketball or whatever it is that we're doing. We do it all the time in all sorts of different aspects. I have a brother-in-law who's awesome at playing the guitar, and he still practices. He hires someone to help him practice, someone who helps him teach him how to do it better. He's been doing it for 40 years, and he's still practicing. And somehow we have this idea that following Jesus is like a check of a box, and that we can go sit in a pew for an hour and that we've got it and we can apply it to our lives. But the truth is that we have to practice these things. So at Faith in the Wild, we want to give you these unbelievably deep spiritual practices that can be directly applied to our 21st century lives. We want to demystify all these ideas, but we want to show you how spiritual and deep and powerful every aspect of your life is. And it's in those places, the most normal places of your lives, that Jesus is saying, follow me. Do it like this. What does it look like to walk in peace in a world that's on fire? What does it mean to love people because you were first loved? Jesus wants us to do those things, but we don't do them by mistake. We don't do them on accident. We have to practice. And when we practice together, we get better. And there's this idea that you don't practice till you get it perfect. We want to practice till we can't mess it up. Jesus says, a good person brings good things out of the good that's stored in their heart. That means that we have to practice. We have to store these things up inside of us so that when we're out doing our lives, that they flow forth just naturally out of us. It's just intrinsic. If the Spirit's going left, I'm right there with the Spirit. And I'm in tune and I'm right there living it out with Him. But that comes from practicing. So I hope that you would join us as we practice these truths every day. And we understand how everything that we do is remarkably spiritual and has implications about who Jesus is and what He wants to do in our life. And that we step into the vulnerability to be okay, to not be perfect, but to be engaged in this idea of getting better through practice.